Hello, we're live. Welcome, one and all. Sorry, I was a little bit late. I was making food, but yeah, it's not too bad.
Can't believe you.
I know, right? Needing sustenance. What kind of god am I? But welcome. I guess some short form news. Next week, so pretty much anything after next Tuesday, unless I get notified by one of my players that family plans come up for them. We will be taking Thursday, Friday off for Thanksgiving, obviously. I'm always a big proponent of spending time with your family. And then also that following Monday, I will probably be gone, so there'll be no anima on the 29th either. I do know Suzanne wants to be back for that, so if we get back, we get back, but I'll just say don't expect anima. And if we do it, you can just watch it on VOD, so it's not a super big deal. The channel's been doing very well this week. Oh boy, that monk video has been exploding. It's beaten all my records so far for like a new video. Like in its first week, it's probably gonna hit 600 views. Its first week, it's gonna hit 600 views, which is nuts.
It's insane.
It's quickly overpassing like a bunch of the other videos. It's really popular.
It's also just a good video too. Got a lot of laughs out of it.
It's a good video, yeah. I was pretty good on that one. Honestly, it didn't necessarily perform, besides the number of views, which doesn't really indicate anything as far as the editing is concerned. Like, it didn't really perform any better than the other videos. So I think I'm safe. I don't think I need to go to that level of editing with my videos. But still, like in its first week, it's bypassed like what most of my videos have done in a month, which is really crazy. The Alchemist video is also still doing really, really well, but the Monk video is really hot on its heels now. Like, Alchemist had a big lead, and Monk is coming to beat that ass. It's really crazy. The Bard video is actually on its way to 1,000 views, so
Let's go.
Be the third video on the channel to hit over 1,000, which is pretty cool. So everything's moving good. And subscribers even, like, honestly, by the end of this week, it depends because of the holiday season. You never know. You know, a lot of people probably won't be on YouTube for a couple days. Well, we do stream on Facebook too, so I guess that could be a factor. But, you know, so it's going to be kind of hard to tell for that week. We'll probably hit 300 subscribers, though, by November 4th, or sometime early, you know, the next week after that, so.
You mean December 4th? You said November?
Or yeah, I'm right. You're right, I'm sorry. December 4th, or shortly after. So, the channel's growing real fast, and I think after we hit that 300 mark, we're gonna start seeing a lot more growth on the channel. I'm still predicting we'll hit 500 by the end of December, but we'll have to see. And then we'll be halfway to our goal on becoming like a legit YouTube channel, so that's very exciting. And then maybe after I hit 1,000, I'll finally shut up about it. We'll have to see. It's I'm sure many people, especially people who watch these videos, are just like, oh god, he's talking about his channel again. But like for me, it means a lot. For me, it's a culmination of a lot of work and effort and a lot of failed starts, you know. And it feels good. It feels good to finally be getting somewhere. So
I love hearing you talk about it every time because, like, man, as much as this is your channel, I'm also a large part of it as well.
yeah,
And it's just seeing that growth is just amazing. Hearing it, I love it. I'm so excited for all the milestones, just as you are.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And you know, it's like everyone here, everyone who hopped onto the channel early, you know, like soon your rarity is going to skyrocket, you know. Being within the first 100 will become a ever more prestigious thing. So, Celeste, don't eat my burger. Yeah, talking to you. She's
She
a good
deserves
kitty,
it.
but you gotta catch her in it first.
She deserves it as a treat.
No, she does not. I do not want her getting sick.
That's fair.
But we got a lot of stuff to talk today. Today is also going to be probably a little bit of a more chill, laid-back kind of stream. Mostly because this subject that we have today is something that I'm actually not very familiar with because I've been playing for such a long time. And not only that, but I'm like the forever DM. So my experiences are very minor when it comes to like the new game or the new player experience. But as y'all may have noticed, we don't have our good host Alex today, as he is off to go to his sister's wedding in Austin, Texas. So
Ooh.
he made a big trip today. But that being the case, yeah, he won't even be back for next week, so y'all won't hear from him until the 2nd of December. So, gasp, what will we ever do without our good glue boy?
Cry.
Yeah. But after he comes back and everything gets settled down, I think he's also going to be editing a video for me as well. So, we'll get another fun video coming out, and I think that will be for Swashbuckler.
Ooh.
So that's going to be a fun one. I am doing Ranger this coming Friday, so be on the lookout for that. Ranger's a really fun class, and it's super hard to condense that into 20 minutes or less. I do my best. But we're getting to the point I'm really excited about where a lot of people are getting hyped because their favorite classes are coming up soon. I did a sneaky thing and I talked about the least popular classes to the most popular classes. One, also because I think the least popular classes need more love. A lot of people very much underestimate how good all the classes are in the system. And a lot of them are a lot of fun and can do really great things. And we kind of talked about it last week. Is like not every class is optimized for combat. But that's because, you know, a lot of classes offer a variety of things. And stuff like Druid and such. Like Druid, you can't stop a Druid from going anywhere. Like, whether it's the ability to transform or just elemental spells that allow them to breathe underwater, fly in the air, dig through the earth, you know, whatever it is. Druids can go anywhere. You need someone to infiltrate something? Druid's the way to go. You know, they might not be the sneakiest, but honestly, a sneaky Druid would be a really fun build to do as well.
That's what I was just thinking. When I make my Druid, or a Druid, when I try to do like a sneaky druid.
Stealth build, yeah. But now that we're getting to the more popular classes, we're going to see a lot more interest in the channel. Everything's probably going to blow up a lot more. Because now we're getting to the point where, at least for a couple days, my videos show up when someone looks up anything on Pathfinder. So now when I do the more popular classes, it's more likely to hit a bigger range of audience. And, you know, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing videos that hit 1,000 in a week moving forward. Especially with how well that Monk is performing. Like, Monk's almost there. Honestly, he'll hit like 600. And every video has been doing progressively better and better. So, you know, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that that kind of attention will be brought onto the channel. And I feel kind of bad for my players because that attention's also going to kind of come on them in a way. I would highly encourage, well, one, I'm going to say right now, I highly encourage the audience to not backseat game the players. One, it's very different when you're in the gaming seat than when you're watching. So, you know, when a player messes up a rule or something like that, they don't have the freedom to sit down and read the rule book while the game is going on. They have to be paying attention. And also, you don't need to know all the rules to play a game, you know? You're free to make mistakes. And I feel like a lot of people put too much pressure on themselves to overperform in a game, especially when they're new. And, like, they need to know all the rules, and then they feel really terrible. I mean, people in general have an adverse reaction to failure. So that's already an issue, but stacked on top of that, like, performance anxiety, and it's stressful being a new player. I've seen players nearly burst into tears, and not because anything was happening, just because the stress was too much.
I know that feeling all too well. Great. Before a new slate, looking at Archive of Anethys stressed me the fuck out before talking to you, because I was just so lost, so confused. I don't know if I would have I didn't have you to explain. I don't know if I would have gotten into Pathfinder.
Yeah, and how do you rank Pathfinder now in games you play?
It's top tier. Like, once you, like, yes, it's more complex than 5e, but once you understand the rules, it's way less complex than it seems, and so much more fun.
See, so, you know, this is kind of exactly the viewpoint I wanted to talk about today, is just the new player experience, one, from the perspective of someone who, has had a few DMs, as well as introduction to a new gaming system. And of the people...
It's so much more fun.
Of the people that I know, personally, you're one of the freshest to tabletop.
3 years.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, is a lot in the grand scheme of things. A lot of people who jump into tabletop for the first time, you know, it's like their first year, second year, and doing whatever. But your gaming was also very inconsistent up until this point, correct?
Yes. You're my first consistent DM.
Right. So, that's going to be a very valuable outlook as well. So, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us, you know, why your experience you think will be valuable to this chat?
Hi, I'm Slug. You may know me from A New Slate, Shadows That Laugh, or Whispers in the Dark. I've been tabletopping for like 3 years now. I started out with 5e, D&D very inconsistently to the point where I was in 4 or 5 scheduled games a week, but only like 2 or 3 of those happened at best. I'm very fresh to this system. Want to talk about the new player experience? I'm experiencing that right now. I have been playing Pathfinder. Has it been even half a year yet?
I think so, because you started with a new slate, which the new slate ran for like 14 episodes or something like that, and we didn't have it every single week. We actually missed a couple sessions. So that's 16 weeks, so yeah, it's like 4 months or so. So
been in it for like half a year.
So about half a year, yeah.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you started tabletop?
That would make me 16.
16. So, a lot of people nowadays are getting into tabletop a little bit older. A lot of people are trying it out in their 20s, early 20s. But back in the day, back when I started, 14, 15. Well, I started when I was 8 because I got like a starter box and I played with like one of my cousins, but I didn't really get into it until like quite a few years after that, like somewhere in my early teens, give or take. 11, I think I was at least playing in games like with other people more regularly. But even then, like a lot of kids learn about it in like high school, junior high. And to be fair, I came in at the end of the Satanic Panic, which is a big thing during the 80s, which I wasn't alive for. Not that old. But I do know about the history of it. And, so during that time, you were either really young and getting into it, or you were a lot older and getting into it. But as time has gone on, it's kind of averaged out. So now most people find out about it some age between 15 and 22. So, which is a really stressful time to engage in a social game like tabletop. What's your first experience with tabletop? Do you have a story for that, or was it just kind of meh?
It was Waterdeep campaign, like the module, starting at level 1 with a Firbolg cleric. It ran for like, I want to say, very inconsistently half a year. And the DM was not the best. Like, I don't know how to like say that without being rude, but she was very new to DMing and was guiding, I think, 2 or 3 new players as well. I mean, it was about like your average home game when like everyone is getting into it. But there were some headbutts between some player characters, like that eventually caused it to just fizzle out, and we didn't even get through like the first module, I think, before we stopped.
Sounds rough.
Yeah.
I find your first group always has some hiccups, no matter like how you get into it. Especially because like I know a lot of people who played with older generation players when they first started, and they're just playing very different games. You know, the Gygaxian, the Krognar style tabletop players versus something that's a little bit more modern. I remember watching a video on YouTube where this guy was just like, D&D is now just everyone plays superhero furries. And I'm like, yeah. That's someone who obviously doesn't understand the dynamics of modern fantasy. Like, you know, there's people who they're just like, you play a human, dwarf, or elf, that's it. Everything else is just weird. And it's very close-minded. And to be fair, like, they played a very different game. And they're free to enjoy that game however they want to. I just dislike it when they start throwing names at players who honestly don't deserve that kind of, you know, that kind of scorn for no reason. Especially because it very much misconstrues why people actually like a game. A lot of players like the game for the same reason. They like the same stories they can tell. And how they do it is completely on them. And yeah, some players play the game really, really weird. You know, from a DM who I no longer respect, I still remember a story about playing with some very randy furry players, and their game was not what I would ever run, to say the least. It was gratuitous, and I'll leave it at that. But that's how they wanted to play the game, and that's how they had fun. So, you know, that's all cool. Just keep it away from me. That's all I want. That's all I'm asking. So your first game kind of fell apart. It sounds like the DM let's use variant encumbrance. Ooh, Jess, that's some dangerous ground you're walking on. Let's add coin weight.
Oh god,
wonderful system. Coin weight.
Okay. I think I've ever had a DM use coin weight, and I'm so thankful for that.
I've played around with it a bit, only in situations when the players would get like an absurd amount of coin, like 30,000 copper coins or something like that. Just because
That's
it's
fair.
fun to watch them scramble to try to figure out how they're going to transfer essentially 3,000 gold's worth of copper coins.
That's fair. I can understand that.
But no, coin encumbrance. Encumbrance in general, I dislike. I like Pathfinder's encumbrance table, just because it's very generalized and it's really easy to manage, and there's a lot of ways to get around it. Once you get a bag of holding, encumbrance doesn't mean anything anymore anyway. So,
True.
meh. You know, it's just one of the, and like the first bag of holding is like 75 gold in Pathfinder, so
Jesus.
it's really not that expensive.
Love that.
But my experience with new players comes from the DM side of things. I ran Adventures League, which is like the mecca of new players. A bunch of players who don't feel confident enough to ask their schoolmates to join a game, but still really want to play the game, will go to events like Adventures League, Pathfinder Society, any kind of open play tabletop experience to go and hang out. And it's very obvious when it's the first time. I mean, I've also had players who go there just because their first GMing experience, or their first like experience with a GM, was very negative for some reason or another. And I mean, that's how I met my fiance, honestly. It was at one of these events. So it's just one of those things where if you are honestly interested, I say go at least for a couple weeks, you know, test the waters, see if there's any people you jive with. Honestly, I was in it for like 2 years and left, and I left with good friends and, you know, my fiance. So I honestly can't say it was a bad experience, but also Adventures League is not my form of tabletop. I require something that's less formatted in a terrible way, because Adventures League is formatted terribly. I also require something that just has more of that personal touch on it that you just can't do. You can't even do as a DM at Adventures League because you're restricted on what you can give your players and what modules you can run and all that kind of stuff. Have you tried any open play stuff anywhere?
I have not, actually. I've been lucky enough to be connected to DMs who were running games that had open slots. Never needed to.
So how many DMs have you had?
I think 5.
5 DMs. Okay, that's honestly a pretty fair number. I think, if you find a good group pretty early on. Oh my god, every time I'm doing a stream, Adobe wants to just come in and be like, hey, we have updates. Alright, turned off all. It's like a dating quiz for tabletop. But it's not, because Slug's already in my games. So. But you've had 5. Alright, so 5 is like a pretty standard number, I would say, for people who've bounced from table to table and who didn't get really lucky early on. Because I know Devin, who I play with extensively, doesn't have that many, I believe. I could probably say it's about 5 as well. Might be less than that, though. I know I've been Devin's DM for a grand majority of it, but I think there is the odd occasion where someone else would run a game here and there. But that's over a decade of time, so, you know. I don't like this trend going on in the chat. Stop.
I talked to 2 of my previous DMs.
Talked to 2 of your previous DMs. Did you have a bad like cutoff of one of your DMs, or was it just someone you just didn't know that well, and then after the game you never really hung out with them again?
For my first DM, it was that second one. After the game, we kind of just never really talked. And then for the other one, it was just we were school friends, and so when we both graduated, we just stopped talking to each other. Especially because of like we both graduated during the pandemic, so like before leading up to graduation, we had lost contact with each other as well.
And as a newer player, how's the pandemic really affected your, like gaming for tabletop?
Not at all. It was always all like everything but one campaign that I've done has been over Discord. Because everyone I play with is, well, mostly everyone I play with doesn't live close to me.
I know that feeling. Especially with our newer games. It's actually real funny because when I started playing tabletop, online tabletop was almost not a thing. There's some play-by-post stuff. Some people occasionally would play on things like TeamSpeak. They would do like a purely just audio game because they didn't have Tabletop Simulator. They didn't have Roll20. When did Roll20 actually come out?
I have no clue.
2012.
Damn.
It's forever ago now. And September 2012. Yeah, when I started playing, that like I played like goodness. Well, I mean, I played like 10 years before that, but or not 10 years before that. Close. No, I was playing 10 years before that too, yeah. Nutty. Yeah, so stuff like that just didn't exist. So now we have Tabletop Simulator, we have Roll20, we have Fantasy Grounds. A lot of really good programs that allow online play to be a lot easier. But before then, you had to go somewhere. You had to play at someone's house. There wasn't an option to not play at your houses. You always had to have a venue, and so it's a lot easier to play tabletop nowadays. And I think that's kind of helped this golden age of tabletop we've kind of ventured into, because now tabletopping is super accessible, especially with games like Pathfinder that has all their rules essentially for free online. Because like you don't own a player's book for Pathfinders, right?
I own no books for Pathfinder.
Yeah, and you don't live anywhere near where I live, so you've never seen an actual core book, or at least like opened it and read it. And you've been playing the game for 6 months now.
Yeah.
And it's not a problem because everything's available online. Thank you,
Paizo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that makes me go and buy Paizo products. We literally at this house, I should say, I don't do it all by myself, but we have like a digital copy and a physical copy of all the books, as well as we buy a lot of their merch and stuff for a variety of things. I mean, that's where I got that map in the background over there. You can't see it because of the glare, but that's a map of Galarian. And it's like, that's the thing. You can, because the thing is, the DM is gonna buy the book no matter what, and even for things like D&D, the DM just buys the book and shares it with the players anyway.
Yeah.
So there's literally no reason to not put your rules up online like Archive of Nethys does, because the people who are going to buy the books are going to buy the books regardless. The only things like Wizard of the Coast is doing is you're creating a barrier of entry for your players that's money based, and that's not okay.
I'm lucky with Wizards of the Coast though, because I have a friend who's buys all the books, and I'm like, it's like a part of their campaign. So they're doing like the campaign book share. So I just have access to all of the books, but I figured that's not common not for everyone.
Well, I mean, there's also a thing, like, they do stuff like that every once in a while, yeah, to like, get in a new injection of players. But that's not an all the time thing. Paizo, even for first edition, had Archive of Nethys. Not right away for first edition, but eventually Archive of Nethys came up for first edition, and then is still going today and is really, really good. And now Paizo's coming out with their new like character builder app that's kind of like their D&D Beyond competitor. So we're a little scared. It doesn't seem like they're going to take down Archive of Nethys for it, which Archive of Nethys is a platform provided by Paizo. So they're all okay. It's not like some kind of they're not like, it's not like one kind of site that just like any Wikipedia where they just put all the information without the publisher's permission. And you've been asking for a Paizo, but there actually is currently a Path Builder app you can get for your phone or on your computer that you can use. That's really easy. But I think this app that they're developing hopefully will be a little bit better implemented than Path Builder. Path Builder is not bad, but it's really hard to add like things that don't exist in the system in Path Builder. And Path Builder is not designed to be like a character sheet. It's designed to be like it's designed to just be like, oh, okay, this is where my character is leveling up next, so that you can be like, oh, I leveled up and I have all my stuff already. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Jess. I actually really like Roll20 because the compendium stuff where you can just drag and drop spells and abilities onto your character sheet. The fact that the sheet automatically adjusts all your stuff as you level up. There's a few things that they don't have optimized in, but I think overall, like Roll20, it's the reason why I use Roll20 more than anything. The character sheet and the compendium just makes running the game way easy. And it's really easy to show my players as well because I can access their character sheets and I can show them live. Because when when we're on Roll20, when I alter it, they can see it live when I'm changing it. So I would love to have you play in Pathfinder, Jess. Absolutely love to.
Do it.
Jess is also another person who's relatively new to tabletop and kind of had that first game experience. Devin and I have a problem. We've been doing this for so long that when we join games, players get super intimidated.
I know that feeling.
Yeah, were you intimidated joining our game too?
Playing Chosen with Gray DMing with you, Devin and Bale. So nervous. I don't know if you remember like the first session or two, I was stuttering a lot.
Nope. I don't remember you stuttering at all. And that's exactly what the issue is when you're new, no one cares. If you stutter, no one cares. Like, we care that you're struggling, but we don't care that you are struggling. Like, yeah, apparently we're just a second group. So, this chat, I think, is really good for a lot of people, and I think we're getting a lot of people kind of hopping in now. So, that's super strange. Hello, Victoria. It didn't show up on my chat over on this side, though. That's so strange. I have a chat open for YouTube because I can't type in the YouTube chat unless I actually have YouTube open. It's really weird. I hope they change that for Streamlabs. Yeah. It's scary. It's intimidating, apparently, being a new player. I'm an extrovert, so I've never had a problem. But that's why we have Stoic here.
Being an introvert as well, coming into people who I knew were experienced. I was lucky I got through it, and that you guys are easy to play with as well. But still very nervous.
So why don't you run down, like, what is the most nervous you've been in a new game? And what was it like for you?
It's either Chosen or it was a new slate because it was my first time being on stream. I think I was way more nervous playing Chosen. Because I was like year and a half into playing tabletop. Playing with 3 people who I knew was experienced. The DM was, I think this was the first time. Yeah, the DM was the first time they had DM'd for me, and I think I was still relatively new. We were like still just getting to know each other. I was invited by a friend who I'd played with, and he had DM'd for me a lot. And then there was one other person who I'd also never met before, but I didn't know how experienced he was. But I think now talking to him more, who's also very experienced. I was so nervous. I was quieter than I thought I was. I had to be told to speak up multiple times. I stuttered a lot. I even messed up. There was one part where we were trying to sneak out of a building, and I cast Disguise Self on someone else. No one caught that like I cast this guy's self on someone else, and for like the next couple days I was beating myself up over and over for that. Part of it is I do have anxiety as well, but man, I don't know what else to say other than it was just extremely nerve-wracking.
Yeah,
but
I mean, anxiety is super common with a lot of people who have like social anxieties and who are joining a game for the first time. Let us know what made it harder for you when you first started with some tables that you were nervous at, and what made it easier.
Made it easier was A, just experience over time, and B, DMs like you and Gray, who you're just easy to talk to and very good at explaining things. And I never feel like I'm being belittled. I never feel stupid when I ask a question. And like the response I get doesn't make me feel that way. I did have a problem with the DM who we were school friends with. And with my first DM as well. I did, like, sometimes I did feel a little bit belittled, and especially because I tend to pick up on rules quickly and remember them a lot more. So there were like some things that we had contradictions over that was caused some arguments as well, which made me even more nervous to play and to continue playing.
That's unfortunate. A really good chat. A really good message was done in chat by Jess. What non-cliche, so what non-standard advice could you give to a new player about regarding anxiety?
I don't know. I mean, part of me wants to just say it gets better with time. I don't know if that is cliche or not, but it truly does get easier being able to just like getting into character, and like creating characters and just role playing in general. Because I've never really made a base character before Wrath in Shadows That Laugh, and like I'm still trying to break free of the anxiety of like being the face with her. I think I'm getting better as we play more sessions with it. But I'm honestly not entirely sure.
My advice for new players that I think really helps them out, that's non-standard. Give your character a very subtle quirk that you can fall back on when there's moments where you're just unsure what to do or anything like that. For instance, make a character that has like a slight obsession with like a snack food, for instance. Like when you're feeling nervous in the game, just be like, my character pulls out a beef stick and just slightly starts gnawing on it. You know, what that does is, one, it gives you something to do when you're participating. If your character's nervous and you're nervous, you kind of feel that immersion and start seeping in, and that will kind of help you break through. And not only that, but that little quirk can be something another player can pick up on and engage you with on your ground. because you kind of set the stage for that. So you can be like, you're like, oh hey, you got jerky? Can I have some too? And you can decide. You can decide like, oh yeah, sure, here, go ahead. Or you can be like, no, never mind. And both answers are right. Both answers are really great.
Also, on that though, it is kind of hard sometimes to just jump in. So if you're not consistent with the times where you just pull a jerky stick out of your pocket, that's okay, 100%. Your character was too nervous and forgot about the jerky stick. It's okay if sometimes you're not as comfortable jumping in.
Well, yeah, I mean, if we're allowed to go into conventional, like, cliche answers, everything's about acclimation and accumulation. You're going to acclimate to your new player environment and accumulate experience and confidence as the game goes by. Be sure to push your boundaries as much as you're comfortable doing. If you're always attempting to push your boundaries and to do something more every session, to pitch in something every session, eventually you'll get better and better and better, and you'll feel better about it as well. But don't feel bad about being not good at a game when you first start, because it would be really weird if you were masterful at a game when you first start playing. Like, almost no one has the talents to just jump into a tabletop game and just master the system right off the bat. And I think what Jesse kind of said here is a really good example of all players have some way of coping with anxiety and stress. And you're not always going to be in a safe environment to do so. You might not get to pick your table sometimes, or your DM, or you might just be playing with someone you dislike. That's all okay. Take your time. Do what you gotta do to get by. And if you have a good table, they'll understand. If you have a bad table, well, then you probably should not play at that table regardless. So that's a really good one as well from Jesse there. DMing questions to your GM when you don't feel comfortable is also a good way, rather than asking your questions out loud. Especially if you have a good DM who you feel confident in messaging privately. Some players don't necessarily feel confident enough to even do that. Some DMs are intimidating, and you haven't had a super wealth of DMs, so I'm not gonna make you call any of them out. But from experiences I have seeing other DMs, and some experience I have with a DM itself, it's like, I remember playing in 5th edition, and I was playing a rogue, and we were playing at Adventures League before I got to start DMing for it. And I was going to attack the boss. I had an ally who was adjacent to it. I'm like, okay, I use sneak attack. And he's like, oh no, you're attacking the boss in their lairs, so you can't sneak attack them. You can't sneak up on them. And it's like, that's not how the game works. That's not even what sneak attack's really about. So I got dumpstered for that fight because the rogue mechanic is sneak attacking.
What?
Yeah. The DM has a lot of weird personal rulings and does a lot of weird things, and is the kind of DM that likes to inject like realism into a game in ways that just doesn't make sense. Like he said, my favorite thing to do when I play as a player is I like to cast light on the nose of my enemies. I boop them and give them light spell so they're blinded by the light. And I'm like, that's not how that works. And you can't even do that. Like, when you cast light on something, you cause the whole thing to glow, not a specific point. And if you do create a specific point, it doesn't stay on their nose, you know? Like, that's not how it works. And yeah, Adventures League is just a thing. It's the great mixing pot. It's the general store of tabletop, you know? You're gonna have good players, bad players. in amounts, and unfortunately one bad player can spoil the bunch when it comes to things like Adventures League. Especially because like at Adventures League, you're really, as a DM, not permitted to remove a player from a game unless they are insulting or being aggressive towards other players or downright like threatening other players. So they're just annoying or really weird. You can't do anything. I remember the first game that Suzanne stepped in on. The second she sat down at the table and was getting all set up, this young guy from across the way just leaned in. And he's like, "So you're coming next week, right?"
What?
The game hadn't even started yet. We were just getting going. Like, we didn't even start actually role-playing yet. He was just so excited to see a girl at the table that everything just kind of went out the window. And that's another thing as well. Yeah.
Awesome.
Women playing tabletop is a curse because there's so many super desperate guys who are very socially inept at a lot of tabletop-like events.
Never run into that, luckily.
And yeah, Jesse says there, it's really hard being a trans player as well at tabletop because a lot of people don't understand. They're either too young or too bigoted. The second obviously being the worst. And it can be awkward sometimes when people are asking you questions that you really just don't need to answer. It doesn't matter what you identify as when you play tabletop. But being misgendered is also not fun. So establishing that, it's hard to do a little bit of both in that regard. And man, I wish I could have so many of you all in chat right now, just because we're getting a lot of good advice in the chat. I really wish the chat window I have here on the screen would be a little better spaced out so it'd be easier to read, because there's a lot of really good stuff coming in through the chat, and I'm very happy. I'm very excited to see a bunch of people banding together about stuff like this. What would you say, Slug, is the hardest thing when it comes to joining a new table or just playing in tabletop in general?
I don't know. At first, it was more just like Discord etiquette when speaking. I think that's something that everyone has to learn, whether new or experienced, when you start playing online. But I don't know, because like most of my groups, I think the group I'm playing in now is like the newest group, because like my past 3 or 4, my past 4 DMs, it's all just been like a conglomerate of people. Like it had involved people from like the previous group I was playing with, but like with some people swapped out. So I can only really speak on going to my first group, and that honestly it's gonna be a little spotty because I tend to not remember those sessions, but it's just dynamics and like proper ways of being a player, I guess, actually, because in my first game I hadn't really figured out the concept of separating reality and the game. And I remember one of the people I was playing with was a friend who at the time was 6 years, my longest running friendship. Our PCs were the ones that were, our characters were the ones that were butting heads. I remember one of my characters just my character just straight up killed like a very tiny goblin that was just being sold in a shop because earlier in the session his character had done something to make my character annoyed, and they just happened to be of the same race.
Dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, tabletop can be like that sometimes.
And like I didn't really realize until like he and I had talked about it afterwards, like what my character had really done.
Yeah, and that's kind of a new thing as well, as every group has a level of immersion and a level of like narrative weight, and so the kind of actions you can and can't do always change. Man, there's so many good things in chat here. I want to get to them all. Bep here has definitely added a really good one, which is it's always rough when you join a game and you don't end up liking the table. Yeah, and Bep did the right thing. If you're not vibing with the people and it's been like a few sessions in, leave the game. It will save you worlds of stress and anxiety to not be in a bad game, and don't taint your tabletop experience with one bad table. I know a lot of players who they played a game, or maybe it's their second table, and it was just really, really bad, and it just turned them off tabletop forever. And that's terrible. I hate hearing stuff like that. That's why I like to gear my content towards new players so much, because I want people to enjoy this thing and love this thing. And with the kind of narratives that me and my players end up telling, like, it's such a life-changing experience to have such a good game sometimes. And I feel like everyone should have something like that. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
It's so nice joining a table, because like I started playing tabletop at like the height of my depression. Honestly, tabletop probably did save me. It started giving me things to like look forward to. Get excited about. Oh.
Yeah. No. That's really good. Any kind of social interaction you can have with other people where you're having fun at the same time is actually mentally good for your health. There's still a lot of studies being done on tabletop, but one of the studies is showing results that people who play in tabletop games develop better communication skills and have much healthier relationships in their life, because they're able to properly communicate. Now, this isn't a general thing, it's not like a for sure thing, but it does show that on average, the more you play games like this, where communication is super important, and where you have to give trust to someone else, helps you develop as a better person. Jess asked a very good question here. What do you, Slug, feel veteran players can or should do to help new players get over their initial hurdles? What is something that what do you think players or even the DM can do to make things easier?
Instead of waiting for them to jump in, give them opportunities to jump in. Just be like, you're in a conversation with the group, it's be like, hey, what do you think? Or just being like, this person approaches you specifically and starts talking. So like, they're not scared to jump in, but it also gives them opportunities to roleplay and contribute.
That's some really good advice. Some players do need to take a little bit more time to get immersed in, and being put on the spot like that can be very stressful for some people.
That's true.
But
probably.
But I would say that in general that's a good idea. But if you're an experienced player or GM and you're hearing this advice, please try to keep in mind, if the player seems overly hesitant or it becomes uncomfortable, make a clean break that doesn't make it seem awkward that they didn't answer. If you're the DM, be like, just as you ask this question, something happens. Or if you're the player, you can be like, you know, like, oh, hey, what do you think about this? And they start struggling, you can be like, ah, I see. The silent type, I get it. We should know what to do. Just walk off. And it's something that just, it's really weird. It's kind of funky in the moment, but that clean disconnect can help them feel like they're not being put on the spotlight anymore. One of the things I have done in one of my recent games, I mean, both, well, Slug, you're one of them, but both of the players are somewhat newer to tabletop and to this group in general. Finley has been there for a lot longer. So I introduced the character of Dagon, and he spoke a language no one understood, using my very bad Spanish as kind of a substitute for a language. And, you know, by chance as it was, you all got to talk with him, both you and Finley, for a bit. And just the whole process of trying to figuring out what he's doing and playing charades with him, I felt opened you both up, like, a lot.
I think, honestly, that was the most fun I've had in the session. Playing charades with Dagon.
You know, the thing is, it becomes a game. It becomes something that the players can focus on that's not the actual social interaction. And it can be funny. There can be misunderstandings, and there's all kinds of stuff. We had that in our most recent session. So,
accidentally saying I hunt Finley.
Yeah, Finley's great. I love Alicia. She's really good. But yeah, there's a lot you can do to kind of break those hurdles, but in the end, just give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. Don't feel stressed. Don't feel like you have to participate. Don't feel like any of that stuff. Push yourself a little bit here and there. The game is all about having fun with people, and if you open yourself up, the worst thing that can happen is you find out that this table's not meant for you.
Honestly, I needed that advice, because in the beginning with mixture of, man, you're talking too much, but oh god, you've gone so long without talking, speak up.
Right. And it's okay, you know. Like, and that's one of the things that the live plays we do on this channel that I really wanted to show is, one, how I run the game, but two, I want to show everyday players playing tabletop. Yes, at one point I would like to do tabletop with some renowned content creators in some form or fashion for entertainment value, and because I feel like it'd be fun. But I will never give up my live plays with newer players or players that you know, are in the community, because I want people to see what it's like being a newer player. I want people to understand that not all games are Critical Role. Not all games are, you know, like what they do with well, what they used to do anyway, with things like oh god, Arcadum stuff, even though he's a terrible person.
Wait, what? I didn't know that.
Oh, you don't know about what happened with Arcadum?
No.
Well, I'm not going to get into it here, but he's no longer doing D&D because he messed up real bad.
Oof.
And doing exactly what you don't do for your new players. Yeah, it is. And like Bev said, it's important to remember you can leave a game. If you have people who are going to get butthurt about you leaving a game because you're not having fun, You probably shouldn't be their friend anyway if they can't understand that you're just not having fun. But it's not always that easy, and I understand that. But just know that you coming and being miserable isn't adding to the experience. And taking mental health breaks from something that's stressing you out is very important. We're in a day and age where we're stressed about a lot of things. We know too much as a society. We know about too many problems that are going on in the world around us. We can't afford the extra mental baggage sometimes. So sometimes you just gotta leave, you know. Within reason, of course. If you have one bad session, you probably shouldn't leave, especially if you normally have a good time. But if you know that you're consistently not having a good time, or you have constant stressors, yeah, you probably should leave the game. Just don't let one bad session when you normally have good sessions with the table really ruin you, unless it's something that's like someone called you like a slur, or someone really offended you in a way that can't be reconciled, or at least not easily. Fortunately, those kind of events rarely happen, if at all. So on for another question. Let's see if chat has come up with a really good question. I know there's a ton here. How about you've experienced a wide number of character playstyles now and GM playstyles. What kind of traits in a GM or player do you find make it easier for you to enjoy yourself and have fun? And you know, like, what kind of tables are you looking for if you plan on joining a new game?
For the player one, that's kind of tough, because there's a lot of, like, different ways to, like, play, and, like, for me at least, to, like, instill vibe with the players. For DM, it's kind of like the obvious stuff, though. Like, I don't want you being antagonistic. Want you to, like, be nice to me, especially when I ask a question or for, like, ask something for clarification. I don't know. I mean, I've never really, like, thought about this question. I've kind of just, like, done it based off the vibes and never really put too much thought into it.
I mean, that's fair. I find as a person myself, I tend to break things down to their core components, which is not a very common thing. So, for instance, when you say, you know, have your DM be not argumentative or not, like, antagonistic, or, you know, not just trying to make your gaming experience miserable. You want a DM that's playing with you, not against you.
Yes. No matter how many jokes I say where it's us versus the DM, I always want the DM on my side.
Yeah, and you should. The DM is on the player's side. It's a cooperative storytelling experience. The game only works when everyone is moving with the idea of having fun and completing whatever in-game mission you set yourself out to do. You know. A DM is meant to challenge you, and if you're in a situation where you're going to die in game, don't blame your DM. A lot of the times stuff happens like that because your DM did not gauge the difficulty well for the combat, or sometimes it's just really bad rolls. Like, I'm pretty good at guesstimating how well my players are gonna do, but sometimes I need to just not make it so my players are being pushed to the very brink. Sometimes you gotta find that happy middle ground where you're putting pressure on them, but not like making them feel like every round is their last round, because that's stressful.
Looking at you, Cameron, and Friday game.
I know. I am not infallible. Even though I was right and you guys were gonna beat it just barely. It doesn't necessarily mean it was a fun experience. And yeah, Bep, I think, Bep, you bring up a really good aspect to forming groups that a lot of people don't understand is that there's a table for everyone, and that means that there's a table for different styles of play. If you're a more RP heavy player, it's going to be harder when you have a much grindier dungeon crawl combat game to really get your fix out of it, you know. And that's not the DM's fault, that's not your fault, it's just an incompatibility of play styles, or it's just a low compatibility of play styles, you know. Like, you could play in the game, sure, but are you really having fun? If that's what you're asking yourself, you probably just have a very low compatibility with the DM. I know a lot of players who also get stuck in that trap of they really like when their DM roleplays with them, but the roleplay is such a small percentage of the game that they're just waiting for that fix. And so they're willing to sit through 10 sessions of dungeon to get 2 sessions of roleplay. And it's kind of like a drug addiction where you're just like, but the roleplay moments are so good, but I hate grinding dungeons. And unfortunately, that's just, you just have a low compatibility with that DM still. Yeah, they provide something you really, really do like, but they don't provide it in a quantity that's satisfying for you. And it's filled with a lot of stuff that is harder to tolerate for you, you know? And DMs, like, again, it's not a place for me to talk about because I've been DMing for so long now. But DMs are players too. DMs are new. As much anxiety as y'all feel for playing in a game, DMs feel for playing in, you know, running games for the first time. God, for the first 5 years of knowing some of my players, even, like, they never wanted to DM for me because they were too intimidated by how good I was at DMing that they didn't want to look bad. Even though I'm like, no, totally, you can... I understand not everyone has my level of experience. I'm okay with that. Just do your best, you know?
I know that feeling.
Yeah, like, your DM is also scared, and you gotta work all together, and it's, sometimes you gotta let your DM roll with things, even though they're doing it wrong, and sometimes you gotta let your DM know, like, hey, actually, it says I can do this, you know? And they gotta understand that, oh, I'm sorry, yes, go ahead. My players correct me all the time on something I miss, because I'm doing a million things at once, and it's not like I get there in a moment and be like, you dare question me? I've been doing this for 20 years! You know? I don't do that. I'm just like, oh, no, you are correct. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick, and then I get right back into running the game. You know? I don't get stuck on it. I don't harp on it. I let my players, you know, correct me. I let people correct me in my videos. I say wrong things in my videos some of the time, too, just because I'm just on a roll and talking. And, you know, the smaller mechanics slip by. It takes a little bit of etiquette on both sides. You have to not be always constantly correcting your DM. If you feel like you're doing it too much, ease back a little bit. If it's not a big thing, let it go. But, you know, also don't be afraid to correct your DM on times. And if you're a DM, let your players correct you. But don't be afraid to step down and be like, hey, like, I appreciate you putting up the work, but I want to make sure that this game is running smoothly, and I'll read the rules after this, you know? Like, you guys establish good boundaries. It's a social contract, you know? No one likes being told what to do. No one likes being told that they're wrong. You gotta do a little bit of both, though, in tabletop, especially because no one is perfect. And everyone has to be just okay with that. You know, you have to just ease back, let up. But if you're being told how to play a game, if someone is watching you on your turns and telling you, no, you should do this, no, you should do this, tell them to stop. That's not okay. Similarly, if you're not role-playing up to someone's standards, tell them, I'm just not that kind of role player, so either we don't play or, you know, we find some middle ground. Obviously, if your role-playing involves disrupting the game or interfering with other players' gaming, don't do that. Don't play a character that's insufferable to play with, no matter how into the RP you are. But as long as you're just staying in your own lane and minding your own business and you're not doing anything that you feel is overly disruptive, don't let anyone else tell you how to play the game. It's something that a lot of players get bullied into certain playstyle choices that they don't like, or being put in situations that they don't like, and you gotta speak up and let them know. If they're a good DM and good player, whatever, they'll let you know if you cross the boundary, or they'll let you know, like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I'm sorry I put you in that. You know, communication is key. No one can know what's wrong unless you openly say it. You can't expect someone else to read your body language, read the way the timbre in your voice is, to see if you're uncomfortable or not.
Especially over Discord.
Especially over Discord. If anything, as Flameloud was mentioning, or maybe it was Jess, either way, or not, well, Jesse, not Jess. Message people in private. You know, don't make it an open thing. We live in the day and age where everyone has cell phones that are really easy to message. And not only that, but people are on their phones all the time. Like, even if you're at a physical table, no one's going to be expecting, you know, oh, what are they talking about when you message someone and someone else looks at their phone. It could be literally any number of people trying to contact or being contacted by those people. So, it's easier now more than ever, like, to actually communicate incognito with someone else at the table. We are getting too close to the last half hour. So I want to open up the chat and to you, Slug. Just your new player experiences. What things have made you, like, situations that made you anxious, or, you know, just vent about your new player struggles. I want to hear it. I want to see what problems y'all have had with your games and how you overcame it and stuff like that, because for me, especially as someone who really likes to gear content towards new players, I want to see that kind of stuff. And I know I'm not the best when it comes to talking about it, because I speak from I speak as an extrovert, and two, I speak as someone who has really well-developed communication skills, which are uncommon in the tabletop community, I'll tell you. So, feel free, anyone can just vent about something that's happened, or tell your stories. We'll chat on it a bit, and we'll have some fun with it. Well, while chat is thinking about what they want to say, Slug, what is a even if it's a nonsensical anxiety, what is, like, that nightmare scenario to happen to you in a tabletop that you just absolutely dread if it ever did happen?
Honestly, I'm not sure anymore. It used to be having the spotlight put on me. But after in the Tuesday game meeting Aket's Turan and talking to Dagon, having the spotlight be on me, honestly not so sure anymore. I don't think I really within like boundaries that I like within normal boundaries of people that I haven't encountered in tabletop is my own PC death. Honestly, when it does happen, I'm kind of dreading it because I get way too attached to all my characters way too fast. So honestly, that's my answer right there. Just my first PC death.
Sorry, something in my face with the last of my burger.
Fair. Jess, I'm so... sounds awful.
Effigy, we'll get to your comment here in a second. I did want to speak on Jess's horror story of joining a written D&D server, and people started making inappropriate comments about my character until it got out of hand. Yeah, I'm always going to say the number one thing I dread in tabletop personally as the DM is weirdo guys making girls feel uncomfortable. Now, not to say that the opposite can't happen, or a weirdo girl making another girl uncomfortable, or a weirdo guy making another guy uncomfortable. Like, it happens, you know? Like, people are horny creatures by nature. I dread it. I dread the idea of new players coming in. Like my fiance, right? I met at tabletop. For the first few months, I mean, I wasn't even that interested because I didn't want to be that weirdo, you know. I wanted her to come and have a good time, and the second she sat down, she got that right off the bat, so that was also another reason why. We only actually got together because I saw that she really wanted to talk, but she would just be awkwardly standing there for a bit, so I just kept engaging her, and then eventually we started talking on Discord, and now here we are engaged to be married soon. But I'll tell you, the first couple months, I didn't even think of her that way because I didn't want to be that guy, and I was also the DM, you know. There's that power, you know, that power situation there. Granted, it's only in make-believe in a once-a-week game, but still, like, you still technically have power over them.
Says no to dating you, kills their character.
Yeah, right. And I know some guys who can be some mighty persistent when it comes to trying to date women. So, yeah, that's horrible. I feel so sorry if anyone is ever in a situation where another player is being creepy towards you, or hitting on you when it's unwanted. Try communicating that. It doesn't work sometimes, and that's more stressful. Try to get the DM to do it. If it's not the DM, if it is the DM, you should leave the game.
Yeah.
You don't want a creep with that much power, kind of doing things to your character. Oh god, it's terrible. Let's see here. Bep's issues have if there's a known player in the group who's a known problem player. Try to have a solid talk with them about their playstyle choice, or ask them to leave the table. Yeah, that's very big. It's very important. Effigy Drums asked, have you ever worked with a player whose character build just really isn't working out? They're not able to accomplish what they want to due to his ability scores, backgrounds, etc. I have kind of, but they've been with players who want to kind of like figure the system out and work it out. though there are occasions where a player just makes a really bad build in a game. I play Anima, and Anima is a game where you can easily nerf your character into the ground unintentionally. As DM, I'll just say, go ahead, just rewrite your character. Just let me help you out. Let me build your character with you. I don't get hard stuck on expecting a player to keep all the same things. I'll let a character, I'll let a player figure stuff out. And if they need my help, I'll help them with it. I'll let them change their character build up or whatever. Sometimes it's even just character failure as a situation where, you're not mentally jiving with your character. And thus, the only answer is to play a different character. And I don't make a big fuss about players swapping out their characters. So,
done it yourself.
Yeah, I've had to, because I've just had I've had characters that don't fit in certain party settings that need supporting actors that are just not there. I really struggle with characters that are not charismatic and intelligent. It's just like my play style choices is charismatic, intelligent characters, and if I play against that, boy, do I struggle. So yeah, it's just make sure that everyone's there to have fun. If don't get hard stuck on a player like with what build they chose. Yeah, keep it consistent. Help them until they find something that works. If you have a player who just keeps swapping their player up all the time, if that's not what your game style is, you gotta let them know that they need to pick something to stick with it. But I can also understand just having a character that doesn't fit. So Bap says, nightmare situation, saying something in the moment out of anxiety that my character wouldn't say in actuality, and causing a situation you weren't intending with how you worded things. Yeah, social faux pas are kind of one of those things that never happen, but could happen. Most people just lock up and don't say anything out of anxiety, rather than saying something out of character. But Bep, I do know that you're a very hard RP player, and so like what a character says has a lot of weight. Don't be afraid to back out of it. Don't be afraid to go against it. But it's a nightmare situation. There's no good answers for a nightmare situation. A nightmare situation is always the worst case scenario. It's like when you're a DM and you have a player just doing atrocious, Geneva Convention breaking acts in game. You need to tell that player to stop or leave the table. That's it. There's no better answer. That's just weird. Lucas Zarek, sorry, you had a comment?
So the only time I think that's ever happened to me was most recent session of Shadows That Laugh, where Raph was feeling Gale's forehead, and because Gale is normally very cold and Raph is like more warm, just like yeah, I felt like really hot to him, and like he just said, "You're hot," and like because I've been friends with Looter for 9 years now, I intentionally made my character take it wrong and just took it as a compliment instead. Kind of connected, not really.
Kind of, yeah. No, I mean, that's a fun moment, but that definitely could be something where you say in game, "Oh, you're really hot," and they just the actual player mistakes and thinks you're hitting on them. Oh man, that's very awkward. Lucas says, for new players, do you make characters for them, or do you let them make their own and be possibly mechanically inferior to more experienced players? Fortunately, I play Pathfinder 2e, which is really hard to make a bad character in Pathfinder 2e. The only way you can really do it is if your stat distribution completely contradicts your playstyle. We don't play a very maximized efficient gaming style, so having some wiggle room with the difficulty is what I focus on, so that any group can handle the situations I'm putting before them. If it's Anima, I'm making the player with them. I'm sitting down and making the character with them, because Anima is just way too hard to make a character that is going to be at pace with everyone else. And it's still possible to mess your character up post character creation. There's ways to fix it, but it just really depends on the system. if I feel that the players will struggle with it, I will mention it. Also, when a lot of my players, if you want, you can watch our Shadows That Laugh Session 0. And you'll see I'm sitting there and I'm like, hey, you could try this. Hey, you could try that. This kind of works with what you're going for. I give as much advice as I can when they're kind of like making a decision. And I kind of guide my players in a direction that I feel would really jive with them. But I don't necessarily tell them what to do or what to play.
That's true. Like, whenever we've been leveling up, I get, like, with Raph, like, looking at, like, the new spells I have access to, I'll give him, like, a once-over, pick out the ones that I like, and then I'll ask Cam, just like, hey, is there any spells you recommend? Just for, like, anything I missed or misread, or just, like, get confirmation, hey, this spell's pretty good.
Yeah. And you know, that's the thing, is just don't be afraid to lean on people who have a better mastery of the system. Be like, hey, I want to do this. Can you help me? That's really good. But when you're new, sometimes that's hard. I, as a DM, try my best to fix it. As if you're a player, though, it doesn't really go the same way. Another player shouldn't tell another player how the game should run. In a sense, that's like not their job. And I find as a DM that gets a little messy sometimes when there are players telling a player how to make their character, because either they're not as experienced, or it comes across as them being like, oh yeah, no, you should do this build, then we can combo like this. It's just leave it to the DM to help a new player out, or let the DM know that a new player is struggling. Do your best not to tell a new player what to do unless you have that level of trust where you can do so without like infringing on what their character ideals are. Flame Loud has put in, I'm in a situation where I can't completely comprehend two of my players. One generally feels like a lol random character. Player says they're going insane because they're Linus Demon, and one just goes outside my comprehension sometimes. Like, I give them information based off the recall knowledge, and they act like the character doesn't know what it is, so it throws me for a loop, and I fail to react well in the moment and end up regretting it later. I also grapple with how much should I teach and should let my players learn. Sometimes it looks good on paper, but not... Oh, sorry, that was Lucas. Sometimes it looks good on paper, but not on the table. Yeah, and that's true. That happens with character builds a lot. You know, in the end, don't expect efficient builds from players. Work with them. Let them change their stuff. As a player, if you're struggling, talk to your GM, and hopefully your GM is cool and lets you remake your character if you feel like your build's not going well. But for what Flamelaw was saying, that sounds like a rough situation. LoL random characters are always really rough. They're very world immersion breaking. Murder hobos are the same way, you know. And the excuse, I'm only doing this because my character would do it, does not work. Just try to remind them that it's a group narrative experience and that they should be focusing on having fun while adding to the experience and not making more work for you. Excuse me, because you are a player at the table. The GM is a player. So if your player's making it hard for you, let them know. Communicate. If they refuse, then they're saying, I don't care about your fun, I'm going to do this my way. And that probably means they probably shouldn't be at your table. The other player who just acts like they don't know something based on the recall knowledge, weird.
Yeah.
Definitely very off-putting. It might be that they're secretly playing dumb for their character, and their character actually understands what's going on, but they're playing dumb for some reason. But they're not making that obvious through their roleplay. Or just don't let it bother them. Or don't let it bother you. You know, if you detect the pattern, just let them do what they're gonna do. Expect that player will do something expect the unexpected. Expect that player will do something unexpected, and just give them whatever they ask for within reason, of course. Expecting them to do the opposite or something totally off base. Other than that, I mean, your player might just be, a nice way to put it, might just be a mad genius, and you just can't comprehend their plans. So, we gotta work within our limits, and if that player is so beyond you, then, you know, just do what you can. Let's see, Jess has one. Another scenario that I had, a player ran out of my range for healing while I was in a situation that I couldn't move without risking three other players. Chat moved. Without risking 3 other characters' lives, which was brought up multiple times beforehand. When I couldn't heal them, they got both in characterly and out of characterly at me. They both got mad, I'm assuming, in character and out of character at you. Well, one, they, you know, if they had every forewarning, don't feel bad about them being upset at you. They can be upset, they can be mad all they want, but that's stressful. So talk to them and let them know, hey, like, I'm doing my best here, so, you know, you just gotta put it out for them, like, sorry I couldn't help you out, but I was doing something else, and we did talk about it beforehand. If they don't understand, it's rough, you know.
Could also take the mean route and just remind them that their life is in your hands, they should respect you.
I wouldn't do that. Just, you know, do what you can. If it becomes an ongoing issue, talk to the DM about it. If it continues being an issue, leave the game. I'm used to, at this point, players not playing efficiently and doing selfish actions in game because they're very focused on their character in the moment and they're not thinking of what other repercussions are going on. I try to minimize the damage as most as I can tabletop wise, and if it becomes a problem, I try to talk to them about it. Communication is key. But you know, if someone's getting upset at you because they did something dumb, that's on them, and that's their inability to perceive the situation outside of themselves. They have a bit of an ego, and they should learn to let it go.
And also learn to get punished for your actions.
I mean, learning how to take your punishment well. It's important as well. Playmods said, when they're not all that random, just the way the RP feels disconnected from the others. Like he learned the cave they are in could be turned into a silver mine, and now most of the words they say is money.
Just money?
They just say the word money, just like money. Money, 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 money. Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, this player just might be way above everyone's intellect level, and he just gotta learn to deal. Unfortunately, that's a social situation where it's just like, sometimes you just don't speak the same language, and you gotta try to figure it out yourselves. There's just not good advice.
I feel like you should talk to him if you can, if you haven't already.
The Dagon thing was so fun, though.
Was.
Sometimes healers just need to put someone on healing probation. Yeah, see, everyone's just like, fuck them. Jess, everyone here is saying, fuck them. They did the wrong thing. So don't feel bad. It's just, it's like playing Final Fantasy 14 sometimes. It's like you're doing your best to keep everyone alive, and one player just goes to the other side of the arena, and then they get mad at you for not healing them, and you're like, you're literally away from everyone else. That's not on you, that's on them. Duolingo Jess approves. Yes, but it's more like money, ... Like, I can hear the character begging from his character. So, I don't know. Like I said, this sounds like a very personal, like you have to be there to understand situation. They, like I said, they just might be playing a Galaxy Brain character, and you just can't understand them. It's up to them to make a character that can be understood by everyone else. It's up to them. If they're playing a character who's just too weird, let them know, like, hey, I don't feel like everyone's quite understanding your character, and I think it'd be best for everyone if you made your character a little more coherent. Just a little bit. Give us simple 3 heads, something to work with. And it does seem like they have the range to have a character that seems much more natural. So they're just probably just playing a really weird character, and it might just not fit. They might be doing something, trying something new, and it's just not working. I don't know. Jess, don't do that. People here in America get angry when you speak anything other than American.
Yeah.
It's actually a problem. You can come to my house and be like, you know, ding dong, trick, or say this word in Spanish.
Probably go to LA and do it. Like, not rich LA.
Not rich LA, yeah. You can go to like the not rich side of my hometown and do it, because I learned Spanish because I literally most of my customers that I got when I was working at Macy's was Spanish, or spoke only Spanish, so it really helped out. Let's see. And yeah, Lucas, I'm pretty much just saying, like, the responsibility is on them, you know. If a player is not letting themselves get healed, that's on them. If their character is really weird and no one understands them, you know, can't be upset for that. I think the question more is Flameloud's the GM and is trying to, like, build a narrative, and this character is just really off the wall. You know. It's just, it can be hard as the DM when you're trying to make a narrative and a character is just way out of left field. If you want to see me deal with a character like that, check out our new Slate campaign. Vile was definitely an interesting character to try to comprehend.
I love Vile.
I don't. But it's okay. I ran with it. I never let it stop me. And we got through the game, so. Man, this has been a good chat. I'm actually, a lot of people hopped into this chat and gave their stories. I guess this is a very relatable subject. I think the next time I do something like this, I'll just get a bunch of people together and get a wide range of opinions.
Do like a Socratic seminar stream.
Just kind of like a group interview kind of thing, you know. Just see what because everyone has like different experiences. Like the thing about tabletop and the thing that makes it great is it's a blending of ideas to create unique once in a lifetime narratives. Because everyone has their own perspective on things, because everyone has their own goals with how the game should be run, innately that chaos creates friction, creates problems. It's great, but it has its downsides too. There's nothing on this earth is sacred because people exist. There's no thing you're ever going to play that's going to be 100% worry-free, but you can definitely find environments where you don't have to stress as much. And everyone I spoke to has a lot of potential when it comes to tabletop. The weirdest of the weird to the strangest of the strange. Like, no matter how socially inept someone may be, there's enough imagination and creativity there within all of us that they can make a really good experience in a good game. It's just about learning how to do it in a way that synergizes with a group, which can be hard for some people. I know, and I'm a flawed person as well. When a player only does Eldritch Blast, but has to ask you how Eldritch Blast works every time, I start getting a little frustrated. It's like the one thing they do every time, and yet they still need to have the rules told to them over and over and over. To me, it feels like they're just not paying attention enough to the game, and they're just not comprehending it. But I do know that there's other learning problems out there and all that kind of stuff that can cause these kind of issues. We gotta learn that people are imperfect, and that it's okay. It's okay to be imperfect yourself. It's okay to not be a 5-star player right off the bat. And how you enjoy the game is up to you. There's always going to be a table out there for you. And just know that it's like dating, you know, you gotta find the right person or the right people in the situation to really make it work. And sometimes just the DM alone, like, again, I am the forever DM, and I have such a high opinion of DMs. I always put a lot of pressure on the DMs. But as the arbiter of the game, and as the overall creator of the narrative, a lot of the responsibility lies in the DM, so you got to give them a break too. And as a DM, you got to give yourself a break. You have a lot of stress on your shoulders, and sometimes you're just not going to have a great session. Even in my current games, I struggle with things. You know, I'm afraid of... Well, thank you, dear, for liking the stream on Facebook. I really need to change that alert box. It's supposed to be my it's my really cool one, but it only works on Twitch. It doesn't work on YouTube or Facebook.
Yeah.
So whenever something else comes, it's running Zombie Man. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll have to figure that out. It's also really loud. I don't know if it's loud for you guys, but it's loud for me. It's just like bling. Well, Jess, it won't be her name forever, so don't worry.
I had something to say, but the notification distracted me and I lost my train of thought.
I hope you find it somewhere. Yeah, and that's the thing. Some people just, they comprehend in such different ways than you can imagine. You have to be patient with them. It's something I have to learn as well. It's okay to be frustrated by it, but you also have to understand that not everyone is playing with the same game pieces. So we gotta just try to play this crazy game together and give it, you know, understand and try to enjoy the game with everyone still. But it's okay to be frustrated. Your feelings are valid. Just don't take that out on the player. For one of my players group, it got really old for everyone. One player kept asking what die to roll to attack after playing for a year. Yeah, again, it's your feelings are valid, and so are the other players. That might just not be their fault. Also, not everyone takes tabletop that seriously. The second they leave the table, the game just leaves their brain completely. And then when they come back, they have to relearn the game every time, you know. And it's kind of like a guild in like MMOs, right? It's okay to have your casual players in there, but if you're doing raid content, you can't have a super casual person come back and forget the mechanics every time you do it. So if you're trying to do a really like high action, high intensity game and they're immersion breaking all the time because they're asking you for simple rules, they might just not be right for that group. And that really sucks to tell someone like, hey, you're not pro enough to play in our tabletop game. but you're all permitted to play the game how you want to and not have that experience ruined. So, you know, it's a hard situation, and people will have different opinions on this. There'll be people out there who say, no, you should play inclusively all the time. But it's not their game to judge, you know. I'm not going to force myself to play with someone that frustrates me. I'm going to do my best to understand them. And when I leave the game, or I ask them to leave, I'm not going to hold it against them. I'm not going to do it with prejudice against how they are. If I have content for them that's a lot more easily ready for them, then definitely for sure. But if I want to tell a gripping narrative, and I have a player who's just not playing that game, you know, you just gotta do what you gotta do to get the most enjoyment out of your game. Life's too short to let someone else dictate how much fun you have. But we all have to understand that everyone plays differently. You can not like playing with someone and still appreciate them as a human being. Give everyone respect. Give everyone, you know, as much tolerance as you can afford in your life. And if they're not playing the same game you are, just say, hey, this group's just, you know, not for you. And apologize for them for that, you know. But sometimes in life, like, sometimes you have to not text someone back when they text you because you just got too much going on in your life and you can't offer even that minute of time to text them back. You do not owe your time to anyone, and that includes one of your players. The best stories are told when everyone has the same level of synergy. Give people chances, like you said, you're doing it till they hit level 5. Whatever, you know. And keep in mind that you can always have casual content too. If you love tabletop, try playing something a little sillier that more people can join. But I know if I'm at a table and people don't want me to be there, I really don't want to be there either. So let them know, communicate with them, you know? Don't let them suddenly find out that they're a problem and it's too late to fix it. Because that's a terrible feeling on both sides.
Or just, like, don't try dropping hints either. Some people, like me, I don't pick up on, like, hints and social cues well. Sometimes I have to be, like, directly told if I'm being a problem. You gotta understand that some people are just like that as well.
I would say a lot of people are like that, because if you leave room for doubt, they'll doubt.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of talking to each other. We're all humans. We all understand the language, mostly. At least, hopefully, the people you're talking with. Though, if you could play with someone who didn't speak the language and do it successfully, I would like to watch that be done, actually. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, speak clearly, speak plainly, openly communicate. Don't be afraid of your players, because the worst case scenario, they don't play in your game anymore. You'll feel a lot better removing a problem player than you will tolerating them. Yeah, well, you know, that's the thing too. As much as I say open communicate like it's easy, it's not easy. Let yourself build up to it. Let yourself, you know, acclimate to doing so as well. You're okay to get stressed out about the idea of talking to your players. That's completely normal. I do it. I feel stressed out about talking to my players sometimes. I'm very non-confrontational. So, you know, I'm not perfect. All I'm saying is the right answer, not the answer that you're likely to take, including myself. You know what I mean? It's like we all know the obvious advice, but it's not always easy to get there. The right answer is openly communicate with them as soon as you can, to let them know as soon as they can, to make it fixed as soon as everyone can. Working yourself up to it is important. I used to have actually some very serious executive dysfunction when it came to living life. Like, I had a very stressful year, and I then got moved into a job that let me set my schedule, and I let that completely ruin me. I didn't go to work most of the time. I had to borrow money from my family a lot, and that went on for like 2 years. I knew it was a problem. I tried to fix it, but I didn't let it destroy me any more than that. And eventually, after 2 years, I got better. You know, so I know what it's like working your way up there. I know what it's like overcoming mental challenges. Be patient with yourself. If you know there's a problem and you keep working towards it, you'll get there someday, even if you see no progress. Sometimes you just need to get that enough experience trying to fix it to where you just level up and it just works one day. That's what happened to me. One day I was just fixed. I don't even know why. Nothing happened. I was just at work at a different job, and I just was like, I feel better for some reason. And then after that, my executive dysfunction was gone. A few months after that, I started doing streaming, and then a year after that, here I am in this growing YouTube channel. So anyone can make your way up there after being unable to do something as simple as showering, you know, because that's where I was. I got way deeper than I was expecting it to. But this is talking about anxiety and working through your mental barriers. So we'll roll with it. But we are at the end of the stream. If you stuck with us for most of this and you haven't done so already, please follow and or subscribe, like my wonderful fiance did just earlier. To see more amazing content like this. We do Table Talk every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, except on holidays like next week. You can also catch us tomorrow at Shadows That Laugh, where the players are currently navigating some social interactions with a clan of demon-slaying orcs. It's a lot of fun. You can check us out at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And be on the lookout Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where the Ranger video on why this class is awesome will be coming out. So if you love Rangers, please check it out. It's a lot of fun. I love those videos, and they've been doing really well lately. If you want the chance to talk with any of us or game with any of us, go ahead and join the Discord down in the link below or below on Twitch. I always recruit there first for any of my games. There is no topic next week because it's Thanksgiving.
Our topic is turkey.
Topic is turkey and how much you can eat before passing out. Though, granted, Flame Loud's on Facebook. Or on YouTube, so it's delayed by like a minute.
Oh.
Yeah, well, this will be a good way to compare videos, I suppose. Yeah, I got distracted. Yeah, channel's growing now, so join us in the Discord to be a part of our ever-growing community. We also talk about other tabletop games like Warhammer 40k. Yeah. I hope you all had a great night. Good luck with your games. Leave the bad luck to me. And I guess we're going to go ahead and say goodnight. So say goodnight, Slug.
Night, Slug.
Every time, I can't let my guard down with anyone. Good night, everyone.